Hey, what's up? What's up? So the wait is over. Transformers 1 is finally out, and if I was to give this movie out of 5, I would give this a 4.5 out of 5. Actually, I was so close to giving this movie a 5 out of 5. So close, but they did just one stupid thing, just one damn thing, and I was like, why do I even pay money in this modern era to actually go watch movies in the cinema anymore? Why do they keep doing this? Is this supposed to be cool? I mean, they already had something that was perfect. They had the perfect product. It's like having the perfect cake, having the perfect everything about the cake, then put a piece of shit on top of that, or on top of the cake. That just destroys everything that they've created. But it didn't actually destroy it. This is a fantastic movie. It's really entertaining, and the concept and the theme of transform goes beyond the idea of these beings, sentient beings, transforming from humanoid form to actually vehicles. It goes more than that. It goes deeper than that. I mean, even if you are to look at the voice work, if you think of the characters who are playing the Megatron or Orion and D16, their voices transform. When they are Orion is Orion, who is played by Chris Hemsworth, when he's Orion, he sounds different from when he becomes Optimus Prime. You hear the change in voice. Now again, in terms of relationship, there's a transformation in that. These two people, Orion and D16, if you've watched the trailer, you already know, they were very good friends. They were buddies. They were like, these two good pals from, they're miners, they're working underground, and they're just cool with each other. Actually, Orion or Optimus was a kind of a-hole. Yeah, he was far more, he wasn't a cool person. Actually, the best person in this movie is D16, the best machine, that is Megatron. Megatron was a cool dude, and that's why it's so heartbreaking. And that's why this movie, it's so good in that it shows you the transformation of this person who was following protocol, this person who was ready to follow the law, this person who was ready to follow the rules, totally just flipped. And I understand Megatron, by the way. I see where he's coming from. We've always had this thing of Megatron and Optimus were friends, and here you get a good view of that, and now I just totally get where Megatron was coming from. And far more worse when you go into the third act. Why? Because the directors and storytellers did a good job of establishing their relationship in the first two acts, establishing who they were, establishing how they related, establishing the friendship and the dynamics of Orion and D16 in terms of one holding up the other, one trying to be the leader, one trying to be the one who looks out for the other. They do a great job, and how much they actually cared for each other. So they do a very good job in the first two acts establishing that. And then now the third act hits because of understanding that dynamic and just watching everything just, I felt, actually I would call this a Megatron movie. This is more of a Megatron story because you kind of feel for him, despite the fact that it's less of an emotional story. But his arc is it's kind of tragic in a way, because there's what he looked up to, there's who he believed in, and then just watching and discovering these things, and then that just making him click and becoming this other thing. And what happens at one particular point with Orion, and just doing whatever he does, that was perfect. And the directors and the writers did a great job in pairing one particular moment. For D16 to Megatron, and from Orion to Optimus. There's something that they do that happens concurrently, which is pretty cool. That was pretty cool. And here's the thing, everything is earned. Everything is earned. Everything that is said is earned, and everything that you probably know from the modern movies kind of pays off in a way, in that you don't see the characters that you see, you don't see the characters that you see in a way that you've seen them before, because they're set up differently. Starscream is in the movie set up differently. There are other surprises in the movie that are set up differently. So it feels kind of, this was a totally different look at the Transformers that we're familiar with. Now, in terms of the world, again, transformation. The Cybertron is designed in such a way that in itself is a transforming mechanism outside, not the inside, because they live underground. They're the miners, and they have a city a believable city that actually works, a believable city that feels lived in, a believable city that feels like a normal city, the way you would see a city. It has an ecosystem. There are sports, there are people working, there are trains, there are community, there are people who commute, there are robots who commute. It feels natural. You have an hierarchy of, people who work in the offices, people who work in the mines, a certain group of, small transformers without their arc. What are they called? Who are they? You have now the big boys. Who are they? What are they doing? So Cybertron feels lived in, it feels real, it feels like a real place, it feels really well thought through, and still sticking to the concept of transformation. When they go to the surface, you can actually see the surface is it's a kind of surface that actually transforms, in quotes. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Now, in terms of action, because this is animated, I'm not going to talk about the cinematography, I'm not going to talk about the visual effects, because this is 3D. It's a 3D animated movie. The animation, I think sometimes it drops to 12 frames per second, because you can see that you can see the core animation rules in the movie, but still it's 3D, almost real, but still maintains the 3D look. Now that looks good. I cannot talk about that because it's glorious. It looks fantastic. The action scenes, I would say this, you're not going to love this movie because of the action scenes. Yes, you have that moment with Optimus and Megatron. That's one of the coolest action set piece in any Transformers movie. I think they did something. It's very short, but very, very satisfying in using the concept of transformation. Yeah, it was really, 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 really cool, and it's very, very short. But as I was saying, this movie is less of going for those bombastic action set pieces and more of following the drama of these two people. These two people growing up and becoming whoever they become, and the tragedy of their relationship. It's so tragic, man. I kind of felt for them. I actually felt sad. By the end of it, you kind of feel sad seeing what was there before, the arc before, and then seeing what this ending is. It was kind of heartbreaking. So why did I not give it a 5 out of 5? Why minus 0.5? This was because, and I don't understand why Hollywood keeps doing this, because this idea of showing characters to be go-getters, especially female characters, I know it's cool, but they kind of forgot what this movie was about. They kind of forgot what they were dealing with, because these are not human beings in the real world. This is a fictional movie about robots. I don't understand why you need a female character who just wants to be promoted. There's nothing wrong with that. What annoyed me more is that the movie focused on creating this ideology of women empowerment and women being better than anyone else, because you literally have a scene that, I'm not, spoiler alert, Alita goes up to Optimus and goes like, I'm greater than you, I've always been greater than you, and I'm probably going to be greater than you, but you are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And I'm like, why did we need that scene? Why did we need that statement? Why did we need to show Alita being that go-getter who wants to get that promotion? Alita being that focused employee who wants to lead these people into being the best employers. Why did we need that? If it's not to make women feel good about themselves. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. My problem comes when you lose focus on the story that you're trying to tell. Because if you were to look at all this, in fact, that's why I'm so disappointed by Alita, because there was potential. If they were just focused and decided to go with Alita like every other character, she would have been given a more interesting arc. Because after that, there's nothing more to her. She doesn't add value to the ending. She doesn't add value to the third act. She doesn't add value to anything outside being that go-getter character. Her arc doesn't make sense within this particular story. If the character was written like every other character, whereby everything that is established about her pays off at the end, that would have made more sense. She would have felt natural in this particular setting. She would have felt natural within this world. She would have felt natural within this particular story. But she feels unnatural because she feels like she's planted there because they needed female characters. She doesn't feel like a natural placement into that particular story, because if you are to, once you watch that story, you're going to ask yourself the same question that I asked myself here as the movie came to a conclusion. Why is she there? Yeah, because every single character who's introduced from Bumblebee, and we understand why, but it's important for Bumblebee never to speak. They do something very good with him. When he's introduced, that leads to something, because that leads to something. It introduces something that drives the story forward. When Megatron is introduced, when Megatron is introduced, he adds value to whatever scenes that he's introduced, because he's supposed to do something, and it makes sense for him to become who he becomes, because now that leads to the final scene. When Alita is introduced, I'm like, yeah, cool, but I hope that you're going to take her somewhere with what you've established about her, being that leader who leads a group of people in the mines. They don't take that character anywhere. She's just there to say that she's better than Optimus. Then after that, going on to up to the end, they do nothing with her. In fact, they did far more better with the henchwoman. There's a henchwoman, I'm not going to spoil it for people, who has more impact on the story, despite the fact that she doesn't have a huge arc. She had more impact on the story than actually Alita. So for me, I was angry with the writers, because they could have given Alita something more than trying to be the female character in this particular show, than trying to be, oh, this is a female character, but she's very, very strong, and she's very, very resourceful. Yeah, what are you going to do with that? We are not going to do anything, we're just going to show it. I was disappointed by that. I was disappointed by the fact that they did not push the character outside the problems that we have today in the modern world. They did not even make an effort to give her a proper arc, the same way that they gave all the other characters. Yeah, so that was my problem with Transformers. Outside that, this is definitely one of the best Transformers movie out there, and it's one of the best movies that you're going to see this year. It's actually really, really good. It's satisfying, not in terms of the visuals and the action, but in terms of the theme and the story. So it's such a tragic story. And yeah, they set up something. I don't know if they're going to take it more than where they've established. I don't know whether we are going into this world that they've set up, but yeah, this is pretty good. Give it a try if you want to. Forget about my rant, because yeah, as much as I ranted about that, it's something that you have to look hard to see. Yeah, most ordinary people will not see it. Most kids will not see it, but I saw it, because at that moment, it's that moment that happens that you can actually cut from the movie and not notice it. No one can actually notice it, and unless you've written a movie, unless you understand what a character arc means. Actually, if you have to think about Alita, if you were to lift off that character from this movie, nothing would change. She would have absolutely no effect on the story. Yes, there is a mining scene during the opening that she does something that actually leads to whoever saving whoever. That's pretty cool. But outside that, she has no impact on the story throughout. Yeah, so basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. I shall see you on the next one. Adios.